everybody, Michael Tyler here with another free project of the month. This month's project for September 2018 is called the Autumn Wreath. I used the latest version of Aspire, just recently came out, the 9.5 version, to create the models of the leaf. These are maple leaves, and also to use Aspire's tools to take a bark texture, which is one of the textures that's actually included with the Aspire software. It's called Bark Texture 1, and I extruded that around a domed ring and then overlaid and arranged and tilted and faded the leaves. This is kind of interesting because it also uses the fluting tool in the Aspire software, so you can create these very fine, I don't know if you can see that on the video or not, but these very fine leaf veins just using I use a 60-degree V-carve bit, and that creates a little more detail than you would otherwise be able to do with a 16th inch ball nose or an 1/8 inch ball nose. This was carved with an 1/8 inch ball nose, save some time. The finishing instructions are also covered in the video. You'll see how I colorize the leaves and how I apply the glazing technique and other details like that. So if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and of course subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss anything coming out. And if you make one of these yourself, we just love to see pictures of it. If you post that on the Vectric forum, the public forum, if you're not a member of the forum, please join. That's a great place, a great resource. You make a lot of good friends there, and if you have any questions, there's tons of people who would love to help you with that. So until next month, I hope you enjoy this month's project, the Autumn Wreath. Alright, I've mentioned these discs before. They're made by 3M and they have abrasive impregnated into the plastic, so even as they wear down, the abrasive stays effective, whatever you're sanding. These yellow discs are 80 grit, and they come in 220, 150, and some other finer grits, but the finer grits for wood, they'll just burnish the wood. They're no good for that. They're good for metal, but not for wood. So I've grown to use pretty much exclusively the 80 grit, the yellow, and I stack 3 of these on a mandrel, and I have it attached to rotary tool extensions, so it's easy to navigate. So it really does a great job of getting into the little fine details and sanding any of the fuzzies that are left behind, and really cuts down the time it takes to get rid of fuzzies down in the cracks and crevices. So I'm going to go ahead and go over this and sand off the fuzzies. And you notice I am pretty much, if at all possible, I want to sand with the grain. Every now and then I'll cheat if I have to get a fuzzy in there, but most of the time I try to stay sanding with the grain whenever possible. Alright, ready to apply a couple coats of the go-to sealer that I like. It's half and half this Bullseye Zinsser seal coat, which is actually 100% de-waxed clear shellac is all it is, and mix that half and half with denatured alcohol. And I just use an old plastic coffee can and keep a mixture of that handy all the time for my projects if I need to seal them. So I'm just going to apply first coat, let it dry, sand it a little bit, probably apply another coat after that just to see how it works out, and if I need another coat or two, then I'll apply that and proceed from there. Alright, I coated the wreath with 2 coats of the thin seal coat, and sanded after both coats once they were dry, just to get rid of the fuzzies. It kind of helps stiffen them up and makes them easier to remove. So now I'm going to further seal this wood with some Krylon clear gloss, just a couple light coats. And then after that's dry, I'm going to follow it up with a clear flat, just to give it a little bite, because I'm going to apply some paint washes to this wreath and get that bark texture to come out and stand out a little bit more and go into the details of the leaves and so forth. So I've already coated the bottom side and the top with the clear gloss, just a couple light coats, and now I'm ready to put on some of this flat, just kind of give it a dust coat, just to give it a little bit of a bite for that paint I'm going to apply a little bit later. Okay, we'll let that dry and then we'll proceed with the next step of the finishing. Okay, I've got the wreath all sealed, ready to go. I picked out some fall color acrylic craft paints and just squirted a little bit on a paper plate here, and I'll mix and match, thin them with water, whatever the mood strikes me, and just try to get these leaves to look like fall colors. And then after that dries, we'll seal the paint on the leaves and apply a darker brown and maybe some other colors overall, just to give it that sort of a toned down look, because these colors I'm going to put on a little bit brighter than what I actually want them to come out. So I do that intentionally because I'm going to finish this off with a coat of a sort of a dark brown wash, and that's going to mute these bright colors down a little bit. Alright, so we'll just go ahead and get started here. I'll just start with orange and maybe a little bit of yellow and thin that out a little bit. And see if we can apply that to one of these leaves as a wash. You don't have to be an expert painter to do this. This is not Van Gogh type stuff. And you can have fun with this. I even clicked out from a mailer a little flyer that has some fall leaf colors on it, and I thought, okay, well I'll kind of use that as my inspiration for what colors I'm going to put on the wreath here. You don't have to paint a leaf the same color all the way through. You can kind of fade it to other colors like this, and you see what I'm doing. I'm just blending this in a little bit with that orange color and the brown, thinning it with water. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and proceed with this, and I'll come back a little bit later when I've got more of this done, so you can see what's going on here. I just turn this back on just a second, just so I can show you. I'm just painting these branches of the leaves, sort of a washed out dark green color. Mix it with a little brown sometimes, just to add that variation. You can see you don't have to be a talented painter to do this. I'm just lightly brushing this wash across the top here. Makes it easier when these are raised like that, because it's easy to get to. Okay, I'll come back in a little bit. Okay, I'm on the last two leaves now, and I'll just finish up with those. And you can see I'm sort of scrubbing the color on a little bit, thinning it out with some water on this paper plate. Just making it a wash, sort of give it that hint of color before I apply the dark brown overall. And if you see any puddling or anything you want to get rid of, just take a paper towel and blot it a little bit if you don't like it, and you can repaint or just sop up the excess. You see, I'm not worrying about being too accurate, because when I put the dark brown glaze effect on it, the carving should render all of the details just by virtue of the relief carving. So at least that's what I'm hoping for. We'll see how it comes out. And you know, fall leaves, they're not necessarily a solid color. They have variations, so I certainly have variation on this. I could make it a solid color, but I like the more natural appearance here. Okay, one more leaf to go. And let's see, I think I'll make that a red one. Again, just sort of scrubbing it on. Now you don't want to get so much paint that it goes in the veins of the leaf, because we do want that darker contrasting brown. You could even do black if you wanted to. You'd have to wipe most of it off. Of course, we're going to wipe most of the brown off anyhow, but you don't want to fill up those cracks with paint. You want the glaze to fill that up and take care of that detail for you. There. Okay. And I'm just looking at to make sure I got all of the vine, or the branches, I guess you'd say. I think I got them all. Alright, we'll let that dry and then come back and seal it, and then we'll apply the final glaze. Now that the paint's dry on the leaves, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of this flat crystal clear Krylon to seal the paint before I apply the darker brown glaze over the top. So I'll just give this a quick spray, seal that paint just so that there's no chance of wiping the paint off when I wipe off the glaze. And let that dry and come back and do some glazing. Okay, our wreath is dry and we're ready for applying the glazing. And I've got a couple of browns here. I've got a light brown and a dark brown. I think I'll use the dark brown. I don't know if I'll use the light brown at all. We'll see. But I'll have to squirt some of this on a wax-coated paper plate. And I've got some water, paper towels, and rags handy. And I'm just going to thin it just a little bit with some water. And we'll apply this over the whole thing. Got to work kind of fast because acrylic paint does dry quickly. Maybe I'll do just a little section at a time. I'm just working it into the little nooks and crannies here. Let me just wipe off a little bit of this so you can see where we're going. So what I want to do is to leave some of this paint behind in the deeper areas and enhance that textured bark detail, and then just wipe off a little bit more off of the pre-colored leaves there, so we get a nice, kind of a classy look, I think, to it. Alright, so I'll finish this entire wreath. I'll do the same thing overall, and then get back to when we're ready to do the final clear coats. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're on the home stretch. The glaze is all dry on our wreath, and I've already started applying the final clear coats. I've applied a few light coats of this gloss crystal clear spray from Krylon, and then I'll follow that up with a satin spray just to take the extreme shine off, but leave a little bit of that nice pleasant sheen left behind as the final clear coat. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this project, and we'll see you next month. This is Michael Tyler, and looking forward to talking to you again with a new project of the month.